France's youth unemployment rate stands at 18.1%, nearly double the Eurozone average. This stark figure represents more than statistics. It embodies a generational abandonment with profound implications for France's stability. I applied for 87 jobs last month and received only 2 responses, both rejections, explains Thomas, a 23-year-old business graduate from Lyon. My parents keep asking when I'll start my career, but I can't even get an interview. How can I build a life when I can't find work? His frustration reflects a troubling pattern. While France has experienced economic growth since 2008, youth unemployment has remained stubbornly high, never falling below 15% in over a decade. Even during periods of broader economic expansion, young people have remained locked out of labor markets. The national average conceals extreme regional disparities. In Saint-Denis, just outside Paris, youth unemployment reaches a staggering 35.6%. Similar rates plague parts of northern France and overseas territories. Meanwhile, in Paris's western suburbs, youth unemployment hovers around 9%. This creates what economists describe as twin France syndrome. One France of opportunity and mobility existing alongside another of stagnation and exclusion, often separated by just a few kilometers of geography. Education level creates another unexpected divide. France has one of Europe's highest rates of unemployed university graduates. In humanities and social sciences, up to 30% of graduates remain unemployed or underemployed 2 years after completing their degrees, defying conventional wisdom about higher education's protective effects. The French educational system bears significant responsibility. Universities often fail to provide the practical skills employers demand. According to a 2022 survey by the French Employers Federation, 65% of businesses report difficulty finding qualified candidates despite high unemployment. This skills mismatch creates a paradox where employers struggle to fill positions while qualified young people remain jobless. I have a master's degree in international relations from Sciences Po, one of France's most prestigious universities, says Marie, 26, who has been unemployed for 18 months. I speak 3 languages fluently, completed 4 unpaid internships, and still can't find stable employment. My parents' generation could walk into good jobs with half my qualifications. Young people face a triple penalty. They must complete increasingly expensive education, undertake multiple unpaid internships, yet still face rejection for lacking the right skills. The path to stable employment has become a labyrinth with seemingly no exit. Meanwhile, neighboring countries implement more successful approaches. Germany's dual education system integrates apprenticeships into secondary education, creating smoother school-to-work transitions with youth unemployment at just 5.8%. Denmark's flexicurity model combines flexible hiring with strong benefits and retraining programs, maintaining youth unemployment below 10% even during downturns. France has attempted similar programs, but implementation has been inconsistent and underfunded. The Youth Guarantee program reached only a fraction of those in need, while Macron's employment subsidies have shown limited success. The consequences extend beyond immediate economic hardship. Research shows unemployment during early career years creates scarring effects that persist for decades. Those who experience unemployment before age 25 earn 15% less throughout their lifetime compared to those securing stable employment early. These economic hardships translate into social and political alienation. Studies tracking French youth since 2008 found those experiencing prolonged unemployment showed significantly higher rates of distrust in political institutions and were 3 times more likely to abstain from voting. When you've been rejected by the system before your adult life has even begun, why would you believe in that system? Asks Kareem, 24, unemployed since completing his technical degree 2 years ago. Politicians talk about reducing unemployment, but nothing changes. The persistence of youth unemployment across different economic cycles and political administrations suggests deeper institutional failures. France's rigid labor market makes companies hesitant to hire inexperienced workers they cannot easily dismiss. Temporary contracts have become the norm for young people, creating a 2-tier system where older workers enjoy job security, while the young cycle through precarious employment. The minimum wage, while providing important worker protection at €1,709 per month, creates another barrier by establishing a high threshold for employing inexperienced workers, particularly in struggling regions. Cultural factors also contribute. French employers place exceptional value on specific credentials and traditional career paths. Deviation, whether through entrepreneurship or alternative education, often meets resistance, preventing labor market adaptation. The recent pension reform connects directly to this crisis. Raising the retirement age means older workers remain in positions longer, potentially reducing opportunities for younger workers. The message is clear, says Leah, an unemployed 27-year-old environmental scientist. Work doesn't exist for us now, but we should work longer when we're old. Meanwhile, we're blamed for being lazy. France's economic future depends on addressing this crisis. Youth unemployment wastes human capital, reduces tax revenue, increases social spending, and undermines social cohesion. The economic cost is estimated at 15 billion euros annually, while social and political costs may prove even more significant. Solutions exist, but require politically difficult structural reforms, aligning education with labor market needs, reducing administrative burdens on employers, creating stronger bridges between education and employment, and implementing effective labor market policies that have succeeded elsewhere. The pension reform battle, generational warfare. While the structural reforms needed to address youth unemployment continue to stall, Macron's government pushed through another controversial change with profound generational implications. When France raised its retirement age from 62 to 64, it fundamentally altered the social contract between generations. This reform represents a significant shift in how the French state distributes the burden of maintaining its social security system, with young people seeing themselves as the ultimate losers in this recalibration. The pension reform, officially known as the Pension Reform Law of 2023, contains several key provisions beyond the headline retirement age increase. It accelerates the pace at which citizens must contribute to the system, requiring 43 years of contributions by 2027 rather than 2035 as previously scheduled. The reform also eliminates several special retirement regimes that had allowed workers in certain sectors, like energy and transportation, to retire earlier with full benefits. What makes this reform particularly contentious is how it disproportionately impacts those who entered the workforce earlier in life, typically those from working-class backgrounds who didn't pursue higher education. For someone who began working at 18, this reform adds 2 full years to their working life. These are often the same demographics already facing physically demanding jobs and lower life expectancies. According to the French Institute for Demographic Studies, the life expectancy gap between the wealthiest and poorest French males stands at 13 years, meaning many working-class citizens will have significantly fewer years to enjoy retirement. Supporters of the reform, including the Macron administration and business groups like MEDEF, Movement of the Enterprises of France, argue these changes are mathematically inevitable. With France's demographic reality, where the ratio of workers to retirees has fallen from 4 to 1 in the 1960s to nearly 1.7 to 1 today and projected to reach 1.5 to 1 by 2040. The current system faces a funding deficit projected at 13.5 billion euros by 2030. They point to rising life expectancy, though it has stagnated in recent years, and highlight that many European neighbors have already implemented higher retirement ages. 67 in Germany and Italy, 66 in the UK. Critics counter that the funding crisis has been exaggerated for political purposes. The Pensions Advisory Council, COR, itself noted in its September 2022 report that the French pension system is not in danger, and that it would eventually return to balance, even without reforms. France's relatively high productivity rates, they argue, mean fewer workers can support more retirees than in other economies. Left-wing economists suggest alternative funding sources, like increasing employers' contributions or implementing new taxes on wealth, would eliminate the need to extend working lives. The debate resembles an increasingly unbalanced seesaw, as retirement benefits tilt upward favoring current retirees. Young workers sink deeper into insecurity on the other end. This generational fulcrum reveals dramatically different visions of economic priorities. In a television debate, economist Thomas Piketty challenged the reform's premise. The question isn't whether we can afford our pensions. France is wealthier than ever. The question is how we distribute that wealth. He noted that dividend payments to shareholders have increased 165% since 2005, while pension spending grew by only 22%. Polling by IFOP shows 74% of French citizens under 35 strongly oppose the reform, compared to 56% opposition among those over 65. Young French citizens view the reform as an immediate betrayal. Lucas Mathieu, a 23-year-old student at Sciences Po Paris who participated in demonstrations, expresses this sentiment. They're telling my generation we'll have fewer job opportunities, less stable employment, and now we'll have to work longer too. The generational inequality is obvious to everyone my age. Intergenerational researchers point to a profound break in France's post-war social contract. For decades, each generation could reasonably expect to live better than their parents. Higher purchasing power, better working conditions, more leisure time. This expectation has collapsed for many young French citizens, who now face a bleaker economic outlook while being asked to support a system that seems increasingly tilted against them. The reform also reinforces existing wealth inequalities. For educated professionals who enter the workforce in their mid-20s after lengthy studies, the impact of raising the retirement age by 2 years is proportionally less significant than for those who begin working at 18 or 20. A report by the Economic, Social, and Environmental Council found those with lower education levels will see their retirement period reduced by 7.5% on average, versus 3.2% for those with advanced degrees. France's demographic challenges mirror those across many developed economies, with its fertility rate falling to 1.83 children per woman in 2022, below the replacement rate of 2.1. The country's population over 65 now represents 21% of the total, projected to reach 27% by 2040. These trends create genuine pressure on pension systems designed in the post-war era when demographic pyramids looked very different. What distinguishes France's situation is how these reforms interact with its already struggling youth labor market. Younger workers experience not only higher unemployment rates, but also increasing precarity. Temporary contracts now account for 84% of new hires for workers under 25, compared to 25% in the early 1980s. This creates a dynamic where young people struggle to enter the labor market, while older workers are required to remain longer. Labor economist Jean-Philippe Condé explains, when you force older workers to stay in the system longer in an economy not creating sufficient new jobs, you mathematically reduce opportunities for younger workers entering the market. There is a displacement effect that government projections have minimized. The pension reform has transcended its technical policy details to become symbolic of a broader economic system that young people increasingly view as rigged against them. Many youth activists draw parallels between what they see as short-term economic thinking in pension policy and in environmental policy, with future generations bearing the costs of current political decisions. The generational conflict has grown so acute that sociologists have begun documenting what they call generational consciousness, a growing awareness among young French citizens that their interests fundamentally diverge from older generations in ways previous generations didn't experience. This represents a significant shift in French society, which has traditionally emphasized national solidarity across age groups.